Hello and welcome to the Small Steps to Wellness show with me, your host, Mari Craig, where we discuss how we can achieve more wellness in our lives, one small step at a time. I am especially interested in nutrition and am a student of culinary medicine, but I'm also a mother interested in how I can achieve more wellness for us as a family and for my children. The past 8 odd years, I've really looked into this. And being a natural skeptic, I have learned to become more open minded while staying skeptical because I have found that this has really helped me learn and widen my horizon. In the Small Steps to Wellness show, we will be talking to lots of different people and hearing lots of different topics, not just around nutrition, but around well-being in general. I am really excited to share this journey that I'm on with you all. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast, I would love to hear from you. The easiest way is probably to reach me on Instagram under @Small Steps to Wellness. And if you have a suggestion of a topic or somebody you think, oh, that person has to be on this show, then please also do let me know. Finally, I love getting feedback on what you've particularly enjoyed. If you'd like to get in touch, again, head over to Instagram. And I also really, really enjoy some good reviews on wherever you listen to your podcasts. Now, on with today's episode. Right, welcome. Welcome, both of you. Lisa, I've got you with me today, Lisa James. My friend Amy, who,
Hi.
if you are listening to the podcast, you will have heard Amy several times before. She messaged me and she said, Mari, I've got a friend. She'll be brilliant for your podcast. She is just as annoyed as you about the state of the food in our schools and all the, what did you say earlier? We're walking through treacle.
Yeah.
We need to have her on your podcast. And I said, can you both come on? So Amy's here, you're here, Lisa,
Yes.
mum of two, studying nutritional therapy
Yes.
at the Institute of Optimum Nutrition. And
Yes.
then, interestingly, we were on a call earlier with Debbie Bess, who's also been on this podcast several times before. And we were just wrapping up a call before we started this recording. And she's like, what are you talking about? Oh, we're ranting about our society and our ultra-processed society. And she's like, oh my gosh, can I listen in? Yes, you can listen in. So Debbie's here. We've muted them both, Lisa. But this is just a topic, just basically, how on earth do we let go control of our children as they get older and have to make choices for themselves? This is where I'm at. I've got children that are 8 and 11 and a 1-year-old, but he kind of doesn't count because I make all his food. He counts in very many ways. But your children are 9 and 5. Have you always been interested in nutrition and what they're fed, or is this something new for you? And like, where has this interest come from? Or the outrage, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always been there. I mean, Amy will sort of attest to this. We've lived together and stuff, and I've always sort of been, conscious of eating and like not, in a sort of very kind of I really embrace food. And my husband, before we were married, which was over 12 years ago, made a mistake of buying me a book at Christmas called I think it's called Whole Earth 30. And it was basically it was a paleo diet and the theory around the paleo diet and the science behind it. Like, really, I found really, really interesting about the gut and permeability and lots of things that it talked about. And I was like, we're going to do this. We're going to do the 30 days. And he was like, oh no, what have I done? Anyway, we did it, and it's hard work. Like, it is hard work. And actually, just as a general point, being well in this day and age is hard work. You have to work quite hard at it. And we had a 30-day and we were meal planning. Obviously, I didn't have children at the time. I had much more time. So we were able to meal plan, and it's difficult. You're cutting out lots and lots of things, legumes and, and fruit. And anyway, it was a 30-day thing. And after a week or so, he was like, I feel really good. I'm feeling great. And I was like, oh, I'm not. I feel fine. And then by the third week, I was sort of feeling good. And I didn't mean to lose weight, but I did lose a little bit of weight. He lost a little bit of weight, but he was feeling amazing. And then as we went back to normal, we and then we introduced other things that were excluded, like diet, dairy and stuff. And we started to change our diet from then. And then I became a little bit more aware. And long story short, I've always sort of just been interested in food, but I think that's where the switch was flicked. And yeah, so obviously having children, I'm the sort of person that loves all the details. So yeah, when I had the kids, but when I was pregnant, you're sort of told, oh, don't eat eggs and don't eat raw eggs and don't eat peanuts and stuff. And I was a bit like, oh, well, if I don't eat peanuts, surely they'll have an allergy. So I was like, I sort of didn't disregard at all. I obviously, followed a lot of it. But then interesting, like 2 or 3 years later, the egg thing was sort of taken out of the list and the peanut thing was taken off the list. And I was like, oh, it's interesting, isn't it? Like, there's a sort of a shock factor, like something happens. And I appreciate that. And that sometimes needs to happen. But yeah, you worry a little bit that it's a bit sort of knee jerk. But anyway, and then as I've always been, with weaning and stuff, I looked at baby-led weaning. I know Amy was very much, an advocate of that. And I found it tricky with the gagging.
I know it's a scary at first.
It's those, and I was like, is it good for me to be stressed and looking at them like playing with food and baby-led weaning, but also doing things that I could cope with and know that they were sort of getting food in. So yeah, it was. And then I mean, I think just as the years have gone by, I've just learned more. And then had that midlife moment where I was sort of like my job, I was a square peg in a round hole. I was like, I don't get this anymore, it doesn't get me, I need to be doing something else that I feel like I can help people and is meaningful. And then I started studying nutrition. I'm in my sort of second year, and it's been fascinating, overwhelming. The information is overwhelming, it's changing all the time, the science is really interesting. It's just great. And I try and apply that. You try and then apply all that to life, and it's hard because life doesn't necessarily fit. So it's about finding the balance and finding what can I control, and what's also, I've got to still find the joy in life and find the joy in food and all of this sort of thing.
There's a balance with struck. Sorry for my internet connection seems to be unstable, so all of you froze for a few seconds. I didn't hear anything, and funnily, Amy, your face just frozen there, like a very, very excited looking face, which is quite funny. So sorry for any listeners, you missed out like a few seconds of what Lisa was saying, but I think I got the gist. There's a balance to be struck, isn't there? It's with all this information. So I'm studying culinary medicine at the moment, so basically I'm using food as medicine, and it is really interesting, but it can become a bit overwhelming, a bit all consuming. And one thing is dealing with yourself, and as you said, cooking for yourself and meal planning for yourself. But when you then add kids to the mix, it's fine in the beginning. Again, it's like, well, I've got a 1-year-old now, and I cook for him, so I can kind of control what he's eating. But as soon as you then send them out into the wider world, nursery, school, and which was going to be the topic for today, it is hard because you have then all of a sudden all this information about what a healthy diet looks like, what a truly healthy diet looks like. But then you have the reality of the world that they're living in. And I found myself quite stressed about it. And they come home from school and they're like, oh, I had jelly today. And I'm like, oh, great. And then they go, oh, yeah, but the teacher said there was no added sugar. I'm like, okay, even better. There's going to be artificial sweetener in it. And like all this information that you now have about healthy diets can be quite stressful, I find. How do you deal with that? Because
I think because my experience when my eldest was little and she just started at nursery, she started to sort of get she got constipated and was withholding, and she'd only been at nursery a few weeks, and we went on holiday for 2 weeks, and I was really scared about it. I was like, I don't know how to help her. Like, she was obviously in much discomfort and she's only little. Anyway, we over the holiday, she's eating the food that we cooked, and obviously you're on holiday, so you're not always getting what you can, and she was fine. And then like she was all like, her movements were all regular again. And then she went back to nursery and it kicked off again. And so I knew that it was because the diet had changed. And obviously, you know, when young kids get constipated and have, you know, past painful stools, they then start withholding potentially, and then you're in like a cycle. And it was pretty bad for like, and I went to them and I, you know, this is, you know, and I was like, have you noticed you've got like spaghetti carbonara and then you've got like apple cake? And I was like, that's quite a lot of like hefty refined carbs there. I mean, like, and I think it was something like then sandwiches for tea. And I said, I don't know about you, but if I have pasta and then a pizza, my stomach's not like happy. Like if I'm like, you know, bread, pasta, pizza, it's like, you know, that's not happy. And she was like, oh yeah, we hadn't really thought about that. And I was like, yeah. So I actually I think we went gluten-free with her. And it worked. And I think some of the staff like, oh, maybe we should go back. You know, I think, you know, she's toilets fine, whatever. And we did. And then they noticed that her behavior was a bit different because she was like, I think getting blocked up again. And like, she's not gluten-free, like we do eat, but you know, it's just balanced and you know, the types of carbs that we eat, etc. So that was my first realization, where this is actually stressful because it's like affecting her like health, etc. And interestingly, not that long ago, now my little one was 2, they went to a party, and it was a proper kids party, kind of white breads, what's it, lots of like, you know, the kids party food, which is sort of fine in moderation. But we'd been out for lunch a bit before and we'd had like a platter, but there was some bread there. And then later when they went home, they got given the leftovers from the party because we were friends with the parents. And then they ate that in the car on the way home. And then they basically needed them pooed for a week. And it was awful. They were both like she must have been 7 or 6 at the time, my eldest, and then a 2-year-old. And then they were just like really, the little one, it was really horrible. And I was so stressed at myself that they were in this position because I'm supposed to be feeding them. I'm supposed to be controlling their intake. And she basically had to drink water because if she drank water too quickly, she'd throw up because she was obviously so like full. And when she wasn't eating very much. So I got lactulose and Movicol I don't really like, but you know, if it's necessary.
Yeah.
And fortunately it passed. And with the older one, she suddenly then realized, actually, this stuff that I'm eating can make me feel pretty rough. Like they were so lethargic, they were stomachs, and so from that point, my 6-year-old sort of, I think, yeah, a switch went for her, and she was like, actually, the things that I eat do affect me. And bless her, poor her, I'm like, have you had protein? Have you had so I'm like teaching about like macro and micronutrients. So she's an awareness of it, and she does seem to sort of consider things a bit more when she's eating. But yeah, the little one is just, you know, it's harder.
It is harder with the little ones. It's funny, I'm laughing because Debbie here earlier, you were saying, Debbie, that your son had pasta at school, and what was the question you'd asked him? See if we can get Debbie to unmute herself. It was just quite funny because it's exactly what you were saying earlier. So what did you say?
Sorry, I found the mute button eventually. Yeah, so I said to him, because he started at secondary school, similar situation to you, Lisa, really, you know, you lose control of what they're eating. And I said to him, what have you had to eat today? And he said, oh, I had pasta. And I went, yeah, and he went, no, just pasta. I said, no protein, no chicken, no ham, no egg. Nope, just pasta. So this went on for a couple of weeks, and it was the same story. And he was finding that he was not concentrating at school because he would get the massive energy spike an hour after eating, then crash. So we went back to packed lunches because then I could control and balance his lunches. And the thing is that when we went to view the school, the canteen actually looked really promising, and I was really quite impressed. But there's no, I mean, obviously when they're sort of teenagers, you think that they can make wise choices, but if they don't know what the right choices are, this is the problem. I mean, I think in school refectories, there should be some sort of checklist as they approach the counter. You know, have you chosen protein? Have you chosen healthy fats? Have you chosen carbs? you can't make them choose it, but at least if they're aware of what they should be choosing, I think that would make a massive impact. I had to get that in because I think my battery's going to die, so fingers crossed it will last a bit longer. But
that's great. No,
yeah,
but that was just interesting there, because literally you asked the same question: where's the protein? And I think you both onto something, aren't you? Because we are forever thinking that we'll make what our children will eat, but by making what we think our children will eat, that's all they will eat, because that's all their bodies are their bodies are used to. So by just doing the pizzas and pastas and maybe the tomato sauce for a little bit of veg on the side, they are missing out on a lot of nutrients, and they're missing out on experiencing different textures and flavors, and they're missing out on their bodies learning what a good diet looks like, and they're missing out on getting used to different foods so that their bodies will crave it. They're missing out on so much, but we're thinking we're doing them a favor because at least then they'll eat, right? And I think that's what's going on definitely in a lot of nurseries, obviously not all nurseries. And I think that's what's going on in schools as well with the school meals. Obviously they need to make sure that the children are eating, and Amy pointed it out earlier, it ends up being a lot of beige foods, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's at least a couple of pastas on the menu on the week, and then there's obviously something processed on the Friday, and this is all fine because in a sort of balance, if it's a balanced plate. But yeah, it is a lot of beige.
Did you want to add to that, Amy?
Yeah, I was thinking when you were talking about the school menu offering, luckily the school emails us in advance what the menus, they've got like a 3-week rolling menu, and just because it says that that's what's on the menu doesn't guarantee that your kid's going to eat it, because like Debbie said, like her son would just choose, yeah, fine, he took the pasta dish, but he just ate the pasta. There's all these lovely things that are on offer at my kids' school. They've got a salad bar, they've got loads of it, and luckily my children do choose them, but I'm sure there are days where they don't, or they only eat the carbohydrate option that's there. But I find it really tricky because, well, the biggest challenge for me is meal planning in the evening, is because they're having quite a high carbohydrate lunch, so I've got to make sure that their dinner is balanced, because if they're not getting their veggies in, let's say at lunchtime, I've got to make sure I kind of compensate and make up for that in the evening, and make it also palatable that they're going to want to eat it too. So the biggest challenge for me is making sure the evening meal is more balanced, probably lower carb or better carb, let's say, than what's on offer, because I think pretty much every day there's a pasta option at my kids' school. There's always a baguette if they want to have a baguette. Yeah, there's rice, which I'm happier with as well, but you just don't know. Like we've all just said, we don't know what the child is going to choose. So I guess it's up to us to what we can control in the evenings, and also breakfast. It is where I have to put my focus and just leave the rest with them.
Yeah, I agree. Lisa, when you first spoke to Amy about this, your frustration was with sugar and sweet and treats in schools.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's that been like for you?
Yeah, well, what I didn't realize when I moved in COVID, so when my eldest daughter was at school, she did some tidying up and got some sweets and came home, and I was like, what's this? Surely there's all these yellow posters about, I can't remember what the slogan is from the NHS, but swap healthy swaps or something. And there's and I was like, sugar, there's things about sugar, and I was just like, I don't understand why you've got sweets for school. I mean, I'm really struggling with the jam sandwiches at after school club, because that's so 80s. I can't get my head around it. But I sort of was like, but the sweets for tidying up, I was just like, this doesn't sit right. It really doesn't sit right. And I spoke to some other parents going, am I mad? Am I the only person that thinks that this is wrong? And some other parents were like, no, I think if you feel, I was like, should I speak to someone about it? They're like, yeah, if you feel so, but they were all sort of like, yeah, if you feel strongly about it, I would say something, I think you got a point. And I was just like, I feel like I'm not necessarily, there's not a bandwagon here that I'm jumping on, but I went and spoke to, and I said, is this okay? Like to reward children with sweets? Like, do you think this is all right? And early years teacher came back and just said, oh, well, we'll make sure when Scarlett next does something that when she goes in the bag, she doesn't get sweets. And I was like, no, but my point isn't just for Scarlett. My point is just generally asking the question if you think this is okay. And I was just like, obviously that's not really landed. And then we left and we came to this school, and there's a lot more. So basically, if it's anybody's birthday, some sweets are given out by the child. Also, there was a PE lesson, and Scarlett went, Mummy, we had PE today. It was a treasure hunt. I had to find sweets. And even she thought that was ironic.
Oh my God.
She thought in the PE lesson. Now, there's not enough PE in schools anyway. There's not enough PE in schools anyway. So like the fact that then you sort of, and I kind of get it. I kind of get it, but I find it hard to accept. And then, yeah, there's obviously it's the end of term, there might be a party, there's all these things. And what's interesting is I spoke to another mum about this at the new school, and she said, because she works with, she's worked in sort of child safeguarding, etc. in the past. She's got a sort of eye on nutrition. And when her son started in reception with my daughter, she was just like, she found it interesting, you know, how it all worked and what was on offer. And she said, oh, well, you do know that the Department of Education, it's okay for schools to give out sweets. It's actually part of it. So not that it's okay, but what it is that there's a food in the legislation, there's like food regulation. So obviously the food has to contain certain balances of protein, carbs, fats, sugars, etc. There isn't a lot of added sugar allowed, and in the desserts, I think they've got to have a certain amount. Desserts, full stop, for me is like 1953. I mean, why do we need desserts? Like, I don't understand. But I get the fact that it's cost. I get the fact that they want the kids to eat. I get the fact that they want it to be, which again is a valid argument. Like, let's enjoy food. Let's feel like we want to sit down at lunch with our peers and eat, and that's great. And I get that, but I still find it like, have we not moved on? But yeah, so I went and looked on the department. So what it says is that all these regulations apply to after school clubs, morning clubs and everything, and lunches, but there are exceptions. So none of these rules apply to religious, I think I wrote it down, what was it? Religious and cultural events where there are parties and you're celebrating, rewards for achievement, good behaviour or effort, and teaching food preparation and cookery skills, fair enough, and on an occasional basis by parents or pupils. So none of those food regulations apply in those circumstances. And that's why I was like, oh, the school isn't actually doing anything wrong. This isn't the school. This is a bigger thing, because actually it's okay to give sweets as a reward, because the government has said it, have not suggested that there needs to be any regulation on it. Now, for me, a part of it is like, yeah, I get the cultural events and I get that. And if you do a bake sale and everybody makes homemade cakes and stuff, I don't have a problem with that homemade thing. You know, people have been baking since whatever. And in the 50s, you didn't like, obesity was probably less than 1% of the population. And because people don't eat like 3 cakes in a go, they just have one and then they're fine. And, you know, having a cake that your grandma made, all of that sort of thing, you know, sharing like a cake with a friend over coffee, you know, all that's really nice. And that's like a social thing. And that's the other layer of food. But when it's school and you're just giving out sweets because somebody's tidied up or somebody's, you know, I'm just like, that can't be right.
For so many reasons also, it doesn't even have to be about sweets. It's like, why do we have to reward doing the right thing with giving you stuff? Whether it's sweets or whatever it is, you can say, well done, fantastic job, you know, I don't know, climb up on the behavior ladder or whatever. But why does it happen? Or even just a well done, thank you so much for being a helpful member of the class, you know, getting a big thumbs up from Amy here. It doesn't have to be rewarded with stuff all the time. This whole thing also about sweets being taken into school, you said by parents on occasion, but if the occasion is my child's birthday and there's 32 children in your class, that's an awful lot of sweets.
Well, exactly, that's 30 times across. Yeah. How many weeks in a school year? 30? I don't know.
Well, probably.
That's like once a week.
Yeah, exactly. And that's in addition to 39 weeks. Yeah, says the former teacher.
Yeah.
it ends up being an awful lot. I've got issues with this. During COVID, the kids were given lunches in their classrooms in like little brown bags, and they got given a juice carton. And I think still, according to the Department of Education, it is considered one of your 5 a day, because of the fruit content, which is a really, really cheap way of getting out of serving kids fresh fruit. So they got that every single day with their lunches. And then after a while, I think my eldest told me about it, and I said, can we just make a deal? I said to her that 4 days a week, you bring the juice carton home, and then the 5th day on a Friday, fine, have it at school. Would that be okay? And then we could have the juice in the fridge, and we could have it on the weekends, or something like that. But just every day, and also going then, not brushing your teeth afterwards, all that, sugar in your teeth. So she was like, yeah, that's absolutely fine. She's quite sensible. I'm not sure my youngest would have done it if she were in the same situation. But then they changed out the fruit juice then with one that it contained sucralose, and that's when I went to the head at the time, and I said, we can't, like, this is just not okay. I'm having this conversation with my child, and she's sensible enough to not have the juice every day, but now that's happened, and that's like, and I sent all these links to these research papers. I sent like a link to like the Dr. Chatterjee website where he talked about just giving fruit juices in general, and they took it off. Actually, they removed it from the lunches. I don't know if that was based on what I'd said, but they had a conversation with them catering company as well. But it just feels like we are fighting a losing battle, that we might be winning certain sort of little battles here and there, but the overall war we seem to be losing. I don't necessarily have a solution. I mean, some people need to deal with this on a national basis, I think. But I think as parents, what do you all think? Like, what can we be doing?
For me, I've got to sort of keep it close to home and make sure that I'm educating the girls on making the best choices. I mean, that's what you can do, not just for food, for anything really, isn't it? Because they will go out in the world and they will make mistakes, but hopefully there's my little voice in the back going, have you had your protein? So yeah, that's it. You just want to have given them all the information, and that they make the most informed choice when it's that. I mean, but the thing is, it's hard. It's not just, it's the bigger problem, because it's hard for people. It's difficult. There's so much information, and it's easy, isn't it? It's easy to make a convenient choice that the child likes, that they're going to eat, and and it's cheap, and the food system isn't set up to make people well. No. And that's the issue, and that's we see that obviously trickling down even through school and stuff like that. I mean, I think schools can have their own food policies, and some schools do say like you can't bring in any sweets and stuff, and that's fine. That's at a policy level. I mean, whether or not I feel it's appropriate for me to go into the school when their schools are under so much pressure anyway, and say, this, that, and the other, where I might be coming from a good place and I do have a valid argument, I also feel, yeah, it's hard. I do struggle with it, because there's a sort of activist in me that is like, this isn't the right thing to do, and this, stamp it out. But then equally, there is a place, I don't know, sweets for me, I just whenever there's sweets, and then it's not like a birthday party, because I always try and think, what is the benefit of eating this particular thing that I don't agree with now? If you're in a birthday party and everybody's having it, and it's like and you're going to feel rubbish or left out, or if you don't participate, then there is a benefit to having it. Quite often I say to my girls, the only person benefiting here, Mr. Haribo. Mr. Haribo is sitting on his yacht with his personal trainer and his nutritionist, eating very lovely food that he can afford. He is the only person benefiting from you eating these sweets right now. Like, obviously different situations, it's probably a bit extreme, but sometimes I'm just like, that's where is the benefit in all of this? But what can you do?
What can you do? Amy's got a solution, I hope.
I don't know if I've got a solution, but what I did with my eldest daughter, who started secondary school last year, when I was able to access the parent pay, where you put credit onto the account so they can spend money on their food because they have to pay for their meals in secondary school. I was given a kind of rundown of what she bought, and I think she felt like a kid in a candy shop that first couple of weeks, because I was going through, I kept getting auto top-ups on the parent pay, because when it gets down to like £2, it will top up another 11 or something. And I was like, why is all this money coming out of my account? And she was just rinsing all this the food she could get because it was there, and she didn't have me, like, you know, on her back going, oh no, maybe don't do that one, you know, maybe try this one, you know, have a look at this, whatever. So she just jumped at this chance and enjoyed it, obviously, until I had to explain to her that she only has £11 for the week and we're gonna have to learn about budgeting. And I said, if you can let me know how much the different things cost, perhaps we could work out a plan. I would not suggest having that muffin every day. I wouldn't suggest the hot chocolate as well every day, or even the meal deal plus the cake or the donut. Oh, well, actually, I bought one for my friend. Okay, fine. You know, maybe once a month, buy one for your friend. That's lovely. That's really kind of you. But let's have a think about, you know, your week ahead. Choose 2 days that you would like to have that cookie or the hot chocolate, and stick to it. And I said, I can see what you're ordering. So unless someone's buying something for you, I didn't mention that because I might give away. But I said, you know, just think of it as a balance. You know, I said, at home, would you eat a cookie every single day? Would you have a hot chocolate every single day? Would you have that muffin? You wouldn't. It's not available, but maybe she would if it was there. But she understands. She's old enough to understand balance. So like Lisa said, you have to leave it in their hands, but hopefully well informed. And I think that's the best thing we can do as parents, is to help them understand the benefit of the options, of choosing the better options. Like, it's hard to explain that to any child, actually, like the long-term effect that's going to have on you. So yeah, for me it was, okay, well, let's plan 2 days a week, and then she stuck to that, and that seems to have worked.
Do they have options that are healthy to buy?
I'd love to be able to be a fly on the wall in that.
Oh, you don't know?
No. And that's something that I want to follow up with the school, because they said they'd get back to me with a menu with the prices, because I'm only going by what my daughter's telling me in terms of how much things cost and what is available. But I'd like to think there are healthy options, and they do hot meal deals and cold meal deals. I think the cold meal deals are like a sandwich and something else. Like, I think they get like a snack, say snack in inverted commas. But yeah, I think she said the hot, maybe because her dad cooks really well, she said the macaroni was disgusting. It was all sloppy. She's used to her dad's really good cooking. I was like, okay, well, I'm sure there's something else you can choose. Or maybe, you know, let's think about packed lunches on the days where, you know that it's not going to be something that you enjoy. So
it's also difficult when your peers are eating things as well.
Oh,
to be the one that's not eating the same. It's hard.
Oh, before I forget, a friend on Facebook posted yesterday, actually, Mari, I spoke to you about this. She was asking what are people's thoughts about tuck shops, and I was like, oh, how relevant. And one person said, what's a tuck shop? So that was good. But someone else said that they had managed to go to the Board of Governors and help the school turn around their policy on the healthy eating side of things, and managed to bring in fruit every day, which I think most mainstream state schools do have in London, at least. And that was really promising. That she said, you know, parent power is strong. If you've got a PTA or a group of parents that are willing to speak up and just share concerns, I think it can have an effect. It depends on the school, obviously, but I was pleased to hear that.
Oh, that's great. That's great. When you were all talking about lunches, it reminded me of something Debbie said earlier about the importance of breakfast from a nutritional therapist standpoint, actually, and also from a parent standpoint. What can we do as parents to give them the best start possible from home?
I think, I mean, bearing in mind my son's now 26, so obviously my child is a lot older than a lot of yours, and things have changed then since he was at school. But what I was finding was, I mean, originally he was, you know, he would have toast or cereal for breakfast because it was quick and easy. And he was finding that he was losing concentration at school, wasn't, because lunchtime in secondary school is like 1:30. It's quite late.
Yeah.
And having to go through all the whole morning trying to concentrate. So for a different reason, we were trying to add in some whole food concentrates into his breakfast. And because he can't swallow capsules, even now at 26 he still can't. I was looking at an option of how I could get those into him. So we tried, there's a balanced shake powder that we use, which is balanced in protein, fat and carbohydrate. So I just thought, let's try putting the powders into that to see if I can successfully get them down him. So I remember the first day he tried it, he was sat on the kitchen countertop, and I said, well, what do you think? And typical 14-year-old, it's all right. So, okay, well, that's not going to go down very well. Anyhow, I didn't make him one the next day, and he actually asked for it. He says, you're going to make me one of those protein things then, Mum? So I did. I made him another one. And that's how it was from age 14. And it saw him all the way through university as well, because it was such a simple, quick and easy way to make sure that he went out of the house in the morning with a balanced meal inside of him. And what was really quite amazing was, I think it was probably about maybe not even 2 weeks later, but certainly the following week after we started, he said to me, Mum, I've noticed that I'm not sort of having to snack in the morning. I've got energy and concentration right the way through till lunchtime. I have to say though, my solution was to pack him off to school with packed lunches, because we, as I said earlier, we went through the stage where he was just choosing pasta, and it wasn't serving him then for the afternoon. And if he was doing anything after school, he would have these sort of energy crashes. So I actually then had to send him off to school with a balanced packed lunch, and that's how it was. That was my solution, which isn't obviously the best, because you want them to make their own choices, but we did a lot of education at home. He does a lot even now. I mean, he obviously lives with some flatmates, but he does all of his cooking is pretty much from scratch. I'm really proud of him that he's actually taken on all of what I've taught him, and hasn't then thought, well, I'm living on my own or with my mates now, so I can eat what I want. He still eats really pretty much how he was taught from home. So I'm super proud of him. So
That's
it is
great.
possible.
It's
possible.
possible.
But the thing is, I think, unfortunately, not everybody has that knowledge. And I think because they've taken away the home economics classes at school. Do you remember those girls back in our day?
Well,
we
no,
were taught you didn't? No?
I don't think we
so
did.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 61. So back in our day, we did. We were
I had
taught
Debbie.
how to cook.
Yeah.
You did? Oh, well done. Yeah, we were taught how to cook, and we were taught, to be fair, I can't really remember so much about the nutrition side, but we were taught how to cook and how to make simple meals from scratch, which was really beneficial. Because you ask some children, where does a tomato come from, and they say from Tesco's. They don't even know that it comes from a tomato tree, tomato bush, or they think it comes from the ketchup bottle. It's the education out there is so wanting. We really do have a job on our hands, and unfortunately, unless I think the schools change their policies radically, then I think we really do have a job on our hands. But it does start from what we teach them at home, but obviously not a lot of parents have that knowledge, so it's our job to go out and help educate them as well. Very strong about that.
I mean, thank God for Jamie Oliver. I mean, I think it's 15 years ago he went to schools, and he noticed that there was no regulation on what kids were eating, and that dog food had regulation, but children's meals at schools did not. So that sort of prompted him to take action. And I think now it's not publicized, but I think now he still has a sort of little team that tries to educate, and he's done a lot of things with families and stuff and educate schools. And I think that he's been saying free school lunches through the holidays for ages, and it wasn't until Marcus Rashford and COVID that particular story hit, and then it ran. So but yeah, I think the education thing is really key, and but I don't know, it feels like schools have got so much to cover that it's still way down the list, which is ironic given that it can affect everything else.
Yes, I was just going to say that because it can affect everything else. Interestingly, I don't know if this is food related. My eldest has mainly school dinners, although today she's got packed lunch. But her teacher said, oh, she's enjoyed having class, blah, blah, blah. After lunch, though, her concentration levels aren't great. And I don't know if that's because she's had a break and she's like done for the day, or whether it is that whatever she's eaten hasn't actually served her. Is an interesting one. So we're going to go with more packed lunches going forward, because I find that it also saves me money, to be fair. But it will be interesting to see if her concentration levels are better after lunch if I make the food myself, because obviously when I cook a school dinners, if I make a packed lunch, I do make sure that she's got all the major food groups that are covered, and food groups here and nutrient groups covered, so that it is balanced, so that if she's full, and also so that she isn't full of sugar that will then give her a crash an hour later when she's sat down to concentrate in class again after lunch break. So I think the problem is sometimes, and we're supposed to find solutions here, ladies. So let me just finish this rant and then we'll see if we can find some solutions. I think the problem is sometimes that we're all sat in our little departments and I'm responsible for just this topic, or I'm responsible for just this and just this. And there's no one at the top that sees the whole picture. We're all dealing with little parts of the education. And so what you were saying, Lisa, about, if we just really realize how much of a difference it can make to a child's ability to concentrate, to focus, to function, just having really nutritious meals. God, I've lost my ability to speak today. But if we just realize the importance that can have and how much it could change a child. I mean, you spoke about earlier how your children are completely constipated on a certain diet. Imagine then having to focus on your SATs at school if that's how you're feeling physically. It has such an impact, and I don't think it's appreciated how much of an impact a good diet has.
Well,
mentally and physically, and it all goes together.
Well, there's also lots of research. Well, as you know, from the Chris von Tulleken studies in ultra-processed food and mental health, there are more studies coming to light now about ultra-processed food and things like ADHD and, behavioural issues. And, when you think about kids in school and their behaviour being checked, it's like, well, what are they eating? It's not that. It's not. These things do all link up. Your brain isn't separate from your gut. It's not as if it doesn't have any relationship, and that's what's a bit sad, is that nobody seems to take hold of that and run with it, although it's out there in the public domain. It's just people getting hold of it and just implementing it. But
I think if you read his book as well, I'm halfway through it, so but he seems to be under no illusion that these food companies want what's best for us. And this is the thing as well. And if they are infiltrating every single part of the government, then no wonder that the food our kids get or the education they get on food isn't ideal. I'm just thinking about, he's talking about ADHD or behavioral issues or anything like that. Do you know what I realized the other day? I was buying a tub of olives for my child. I bought two different tubs, one just plain and one with some herbs, because I'm trying to get my middle child to be a bit more adventurous and just having some herbs. I just bought the olives she liked, but they were covered in herbs. But you also know what they had? They had sunflower oil in a tub of olives. You would think olive oil, but and this is one of my massive issues at the moment with all the ultra processed crap that we're being served left, right, and centre. I mean, olives obviously aren't ultra processed crap, but there's an awful lot of rapeseed oil, sunflower oil, all full of omega-6s that are pro-inflammatory. How is that going to do anything good for our brains, right? And our ability to focus? Well, it's not, obviously, but it's hidden in absolutely everything. You buy high quality hummus in the shops, And unless it's the only one I've found, it's the extra virgin olive oil from Waitrose that doesn't have rapeseed oil or sunflower oil. But other than that, everything else has got these pro-inflammatory oils in it. All the foods at school have got pro-inflammatory, like omega-6 laden oils. And yes, blah, blah, we need omega-6. Yes, we do. But not to the extent that we're having it now. We're all walking around like chronically inflamed. And that is just not going to serve anyone. So that's my other issue. But it's cheap. There can be a lot of profit made from making foods like that. It lasts longer because it can tolerate much more. I mean, olive oil, you will know much more about this, Debbie, but olive oil is not as easy to it doesn't last as long, all of these things, right? So it's just, we're setting our children up for failure. But anyway, we were supposed to find solutions, because I often, like you, Lisa, I get frustrated, and I get like, well, I just can't win, can I? I say to my daughter, yes, you can have a lemonade when we go to the restaurant now and then, because I know just plain and simple lemonade, yes, it's got sugar, but it's no artificial sweetener roller. And now they go, oh, we only have Sprite. And she goes, yeah, that's fine. Do you think you can get Sprite without artificial sweetener at the moment? No, you can't. So it's like, you cannot bloody win. You get fruit shoots at parties, sucralose or aspartame. You get, everything is covered in it. So it feels like a losing battle. And sometimes you just go, why do I even bother? Why do I bother being the baddie in this house? I say to my children, well, that's shit. Can't have that, you can't have that, you can't have that. Well, that's going to do that to you, that's going to do that to you. Amy's telling me to breathe. I get so fired up with it. It is so easy to just go, I just can't win, so why do I even try? Well, we had one solution, right? Debbie was saying, make sure that the breakfast they're getting is nutritionally balanced, so that they're full for longer. We add hemp seeds on the top of our children's cereal. We add a plant-based protein powder on top of it, because they want to have cereals. It's quick and easy in the morning. Flax seeds, Amy's saying, brilliant. Chia seeds, all of these things.
I put ground almonds in, yeah.
Yes, brilliant. Exactly. And that tastes quite nice too. And we just have that. I have a jar, here come my solution. I have a jar of mixed seeds that I just keep in the fridge. It's got a scoop in it. And I can literally just scoop this and put it on. Obviously, they won't eat all the seeds, but they will eat, some of them. And so that's one solution that we do to make sure that our children stay full until lunch. And luckily, our school also, for snack policy, they do say, I mean, not everyone adheres to it, but they do say bring fresh fruits or vegetables, no cereal bars or anything like that. So that's at least something. But then we have the school lunches, and I do wonder, and all the treats and all the rest of it. And I do wonder whether, as you were saying, we need to go via the PTA, and there will be other parents like us. I also had this conversation with some parents a while back where I said, am I mad? Am I the only one that finds this a little bit weird? And because I then spoke up, other parents were, no, I also completely disagree with this. Let's do something about it. So I do wonder whether that's the way to go.
I do think there is an element though, isn't there, culturally, like, oh, well, sweets are for kids. Like, this is like kids' food. There's like a kids' food thing. And it's like, why are they eating different food from us? Like, they should all be eating the same. I mean, you've got, and that just makes the whole situation worse, because you're then like, yeah, everybody knows your kids shouldn't be eating sweets. Pretty much. I'm pretty sure if you ask the average person, they'd be like, oh, well, no, they shouldn't really. But that's what kids, it's a treat. Oh, it's
also it's a little something. Yeah, it's just a little treat.
Yeah, it just says, oh, well, they did well. They were good at their grannies and and oh, when they go to their grannies, they always get chocolate and stuff. And it's like, I don't know. It seems like such a wider problem that I feel I have to start small and just hope that sort of spills out. And then I mean, do you take it? I mean, at one point I was so frustrated. I was like, I'm going to collect all these sweets. I'm going to go to my MP and say, what is this obesity strategy? It's not working. The government aren't doing enough, which I still might do actually. But I don't know. Having had a conversation about my MP and what he did at the food bank, I'm not sure it's going to really land with him. I don't think he'll get it. So anyway, it's another
it feels
story.
like they're all bought and paid for, isn't there? But yeah, maybe the some of the solutions is talk to your kids about it. And then also what I'm learning is that I'm having to lower my shoulders a little bit, because they are going to eat all this junk. They're exposed to this left, right and center.
But then so were we. Well, I was a little bit when I grew up. I mean, I used to have Frosties and put sugar on it. I mean, what the hell?
Yeah.
But then ironically, my mum was like, I was only allowed fizzy drinks on holiday. And so she had an awareness of it, but she didn't know what was on the packet. She didn't, like, it wasn't there in those days. So we always ate, like, you know, balanced meals and stuff. And she always cooked from scratch. But yeah, there was this thing in terms of drinks. And I used to drink Diet Coke, like, yeah. And but so, you know, your body is amazing. It can sort of, if you feed it well, it will repair itself in the right way. But you don't want to, when they're growing, to know that they could be starting off so much better.
Yes, that is it, because they are growing, and we need to, I guess, do what we can to support them. Debbie, did you want to add something?
I was just going to say, sorry, let's just put my in. I was just going to say, really and truthfully, the only thing that we can have full control over is what we do with our own children in our own homes and what we provide them with, etc. So that's obviously an area where we can exert full control. Once they're out of our hands at school, it is difficult. And, you know, so I think sometimes we just have to be a little bit less hard on ourselves, because as long as we're doing our bit, then, you know, generally speaking, our children will be at least eating 2/3 of the time, will be eating what we provide them. You know, if we can provide a good nutritious breakfast, a good nutritious dinner, then it's only lunch that they're having at school. So it's only one meal out of the day, and then just controlling the snacks. It's just, I did put a comment in the chat. It's just unfortunate because everywhere's gone nut crazy. You can't send your child to school with, say, like a protein ball that's got packed full of nuts and you know, really healthy carbs, you know. So it's just very difficult because of the nut policy. So therefore that cuts out a lot of things that you would put into snacks that would be beneficial, like you know, making these homemade sort of flaxseed bars with nuts and seeds in. You can't do that. So that's difficult. So yeah, I think we just have to be mindful of what we can control, and then try and see if we, as you say, through the PTAs and what have you, just try and see if we can educate the schools to change some of their policies, because they can. It's just whether they're willing to, and whether budgets allow. That's the problem. It all comes down to money at the end of the day, because unfortunately, as we know, these ultra processed foods are just so much cheaper, and that comes down to government policy as well. You know, why is it so much cheaper to buy McDonald's than it is to buy you know, a really healthy balanced meal? It's just ludicrous.
Well, it's buy one get one free on biscuits, but it's not buy one get one free on apples. Like, why is that?
Exactly.
Oh, that'd be something. That'd be amazing.
Well, that is part of their strategy that they delayed. They had the obesity strategy because that came in. I remember I filled in the consultation for it because I felt so strongly about the advertising and everything. And then and one of their strategies is to into October 2025, if it doesn't get pushed back again, was to obviously not limit all advertising online and on TV to all food or ultra processed food advertising to after the watershed, because at the moment it's just a high fat, sugar, salt, and it doesn't really apply online, I don't think. And then the other thing was to take the buy one get one free off like unhealthy, less health. I think they call it less healthy foods, as opposed to. It's interesting how they've worded it.
I wonder how you can get around that as a producer. Probably.
Well, that's it's reformulation, isn't it? But then what do you end up putting in there instead? That's the other worry.
Exactly. Do you know what? It's hard to find solutions because we all get so wound up, and because we kind of know we're being held for fools here, and we're just like, we see what you're trying to do. But it is a bit of an uphill struggle. I mean, I remember still my youngest daughter came home. She'd been with a friend. It's a couple of years ago now, And she said, oh, we went to the pub, I had pizza and chips, no vegetables. She found it hilarious because she knew she was winding me up.
Yeah, I get that.
By doing it. And I was just like, okay, they're worst things in the world, you know, they're not having vegetables one time. But yeah, there is only so much we can do. But I would say, to kind of, I guess, round it off a little bit, it will be interesting to have a chat to our PTAs and see, or even just to the, like, we at our school, we have like parent forums, just to see what can we do to help our school out. Because I think instead of going to our school and ranting or dictating what they should and shouldn't be doing, going to our PTA, or Amy saying the board of governors, and saying, look, I'm quite concerned about this, other parents are quite concerned about this, I have a couple of suggestions, how about we do XYZ, or how about we see if we can get, you know, a focus day once a term where we focus on, I don't know, even just making healthy smoothies, or testing new vegetables, or having like, this is the vegetable of the month in the canteen, and see you know, can this, you know, who in this class can try the most different vegetables in a week, or I don't know, just there can be solutions to kind of make it a little bit more, I mean, we'll like a good competition to make it fun to try new things.
Yeah, I think our school does quite a lot. They have like someone comes in and does cooking classes and stuff, and they do talk about healthy eating, but then the irony is then they just have these sweets given out, and I don't know whether that messaging is clear with the kids, because the kids just make the association without. So
there's got to be it's got to be kind of a little bit more coherent. And I remember I was once saying, like, why is there chocolate cake on offer all the time? And they're like, well, there is fruit on offer as well. This was at a different school. And I was just thinking, but if I'm a 5-year-old kid, what will I choose? And also my eldest daughter, she's like, yeah, the fruit option always has pineapple, and I react really badly to pineapple, so I never choose a fruit option because it comes in like a tub with all the citrus fruits put together. So of course, if there wouldn't be any pineapple or citrus fruits there, I would have the fruit option most days as pudding, but alas, there isn't, so I'm going for the brownie or for the no added sugar jelly. Amy?
I'm just having hilarious thoughts about going to the PTA and suggesting the next time it's I'm not allowed to call it the Halloween disco, let's say the autumn disco. They always have a table with ridiculous amounts of, all I can say is stuff that isn't actually food, on offer for kids to buy. And I'm just imagining, how about we just have a whole table of fruit?
Yeah.
It's just no fruit, because like you said, if you give them the option, they're not going to go for the fruit. So let's just have fruit, maybe some chopped up cucumbers and carrots, maybe, you know. Let's see how that goes down. They won't make any money, so they're not gonna go for it.
Yeah, and this is it.
This is what it is, you know. We're trying to raise funds for the school. It's the way to raise funds: sell shit.
Yeah, let's be honest. And this is the problem as well, because schools need the funds, don't they? So whatever you can do to make more money for the school is you know, obviously what you'll be doing. It's a minefield. Yesterday I went to a pizza place with my kids, and my youngest, the 1-year-old, he was so hungry. If everything is put on offer for him at the same time, he will go for the beige stuff. I think most kids would, because he knows that's, you know, what he likes. But he was so hungry, and what was served first were tomatoes, cucumbers, and hummus. And he normally just sucks on the cucumber, throws it on the floor. He ate all of it. You know, there wasn't an option of anything else. He ate all the tomatoes. He normally just sucks out the juice, throws it away. Everything went down, because there was nothing else on offer until like 10 minutes later, and he was so hungry, he just had all of it. So it is interesting. Like, if all there is healthy food, I think we would eat more of it. But that's in utopia, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ladies, we could go on about this for ages. It's I think one of the solutions is also that we as parents and as people with a platform share more of the things that we do at home to help our children make good choices. So
Yeah.
just little tips and tricks, or what can kind of be helpful to them. And if you have anything that you want to share, we can put it in the show notes, or I can link to your social media profiles, if you're happy for me to do so, and we can just keep on sharing little tips and tricks and how we can at least control the controllable. And maybe we just have to also lower our shoulders a little bit when it comes to all the things we can't control, because we have to let our children out in the big bad world at some point. And as Debbie is testament to, it can go the right way, can't it?
And I think I think the sort of what you've got to bear in mind is that they have a good relationship with food.
Yes.
Regardless, I mean, obviously you want them to eat really well and make the right choices, but I think ultimately you want them to enjoy food and have a good relationship with it, because the disordered eating thing is scary, and I mean, other factors play into that, of course, but I think the healthy relationship, so like Amy says, of being a good role model around food as well is really important.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that is why sometimes sharing a cake with your friend in a cafe is healthy, because it's
exactly
health. Yeah, it's good for your mental health,
good for your soul,
have that connection. Exactly. So there's a lot of things that need to be juggled, but thank you for all your insights, everyone. Anyone has anything they feel like I need to add? I'm going to go off on a rant again, aren't I?
Sorry, Amy, go on.
Get a cake date in then, thanks. I'll message you.
Yeah, cake date in. Yes, Debbie.
I was just going to say, and this is probably another topic for another time, but Lisa was quite right, is that we want to educate our kids to have a healthy relationship with food, because you know what it's like. If you say to them you cannot have sweets, full stop, then the minute your back is turned and the minute that they get the opportunity to have that, then that's what they're going to do. They're going to gorge because they know they shouldn't have it, so that they want it more. It's a bit like forbidden fruit, isn't it? The more you forbid something, the more you want it. So sometimes, and I'd hate the word treat, as we've said before, why do we always think that chocolate or sweets are a treat when actually they're not? But you get the gist, is that I think they should still be allowed to have these things, but it's just the frequency and the quantity that they're allowed to have them, and that it's and it shouldn't be given as a reward. It's just as a something that they can have. Maybe when you're having a movie night on a it's like, well, movie night, we've had a lovely healthy dinner, and then we can sit down and we can have a bowl of popcorn or some chocolate. And in that context, you can control exactly how much there is on offer. So there is margins to have, that you need to educate them so that they make healthy choices without the guilt that goes with it if they don't make a healthy choice as well. It is all about moderation, and we just want the best for our children. So, at the end of the day, we just have to make sure we do our bit, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. Without the guilt. I think that's I'll let that conclude it. And that's the challenge here. Listen, thank you so much. There is I'd love to hear how you go about potentially talking to your schools about these issues, and maybe we can reconvene and see where we've gotten to, because I feel quite inspired to actually have a conversation with the school. We've got an excellent head at our school who is very open to listening, and to see what can we do to support the school so that the children can make healthier choices. And maybe even listeners today, maybe you can share your experiences, and maybe you have any suggestions on how we can help our children. And do you know what I say all these things out loud, and it makes me think, I sound so extreme. And it's a sign of the times, isn't it, that talking about eating food made from scratch makes you feel extreme. Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of, I'm not the extremist here, but it does make me feel like one, because I'm so passionate about it. But I think I'm gonna have a little think about how to approach the school about this, and see what can we do to support the school, to take some small steps towards a bit more balance and a bit more wellness in the schools. Yeah, that's my thinking. Right, everyone, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy days. Yes, please let me know, everyone listening and you, my guests here today, what you are going to do potentially, or what you have done already in relation to your children's food choices, meals, and how it has gone, if you have spoken to your schools about potentially making some positive healthy changes. Righto, that is the end of today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You have listened to the Small Steps to Wellness show with me, Mari Craig. I love taking deep dives into a variety of topics that are related to wellness. I hope you've enjoyed listening to this, and I look forward to hopefully catching up with you.